Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers, and in this video we are putting Altra's top selling road shoe, the Torin 7, up against the brand's very first low drop shoe, the new Altra FWD Experience. Now these are both builders' good do-it-all daily trainers, and we're going to help you work out which one's best. We've clocked the miles to find out how they both perform. Watch on for our Altra FWD Experience versus Altra Torin 7 head to head. Now let's start with some quick comparison details then. When it comes to stack height, the Altra Torin 7 follows Altra's balanced cushioning design with a sizable 30mm stack in the heel and in the forefoot for that trademark zero drop platform. The FWD Experience is Altra's first ever shoe to ditch the zero drop, and the stack height comes in at 32mm in the heel and 28mm in the forefoot in the men's, or 30mm in the heel and 26mm in the forefoot in the women's, for a 4mm drop in both of those shoes. Now the Torin 7 is marginally heavier at 9.7 ounces or 275 grams in our UK men's size 8.5. The FWD Experience comes in at 8.9 ounces or 252 grams. Price wise in the UK, both shoes will set you back £130. In the US, you'll pay $10 more for the Torin 7 at $150 versus the FWD's $140. So let's move on to a quick shoe whip round, then do a little comparison of these shoes. And let's start with the midsole. The Altra Torin 7 midsole has been updated so that it now features 2 extra millimeters of Ultra Ego Max foam across the whole base of the shoe, and that raises the stack from 28mm to a more generous 30mm, but it still retains Altra's trademark zero drop. Now that compression molded EVA Ego Max foam is tuned to be softer than the regular Ego foam that you can find in the Altra FWD Experience, and it's not quite as energetic and responsive as what you'll find in the Ego Pro foam that comes into Altra's faster and more premium shoes. Now surprisingly, the Altra FWD Experience midsole doesn't use the livelier Ego Max or Ego Pro foams here either. Instead, you've got regular Ego compression molded EVA foam that's somewhere between semi-firm and semi-soft. Now both shoes have quite wide platforms, creating a bigger and more reliable landing zone. There's also a mild forefoot rocker in the Torin 7, but there's a more considerable rocker in the FWD Experience to help with toe-offs. There's also a much more pronounced curve in the heel than the flatter Torin 7. Now up top, both have engineered mesh uppers. The mesh is quite thick and foot wrapping on both shoes. The Torins have a few more pliable little overlays, though they feel more like they're for looks than function. And the FWD Experience forgoes the overlays altogether. Now the tongues and the heel collar padding is pretty similar on both. It's on the medium plush side and certainly not overdone. The main difference here is that the FWD Experience has these 2 pads that sit just below the ankle bones. And there's also no heel counter, and the Torin 7 has a much more structured heel there, so that changes the way the heel holds slightly. Now both shoes feature Altra's trademark toe box shaping, though that's been narrowed on the FWD Experience, and it now looks much more like a traditional shoe, this one. The lacing is also pretty much identical too. When you flip them over, both shoes have a decent and quite similar covering of outsole rubber. Both shoes also feature Altra's familiar flex groove system, where the grooves here you can see follow the metatarsals in the feet and flex with it for a more natural flexible ride. Though the Torin 7s, I think you can see, extend just ever so slightly further back into the heel. Now when it came to fit, I ran in my regular running shoe size, a UK size 8.5, and I found both these shoes fit well truth to size. Both shoes have that standard foot-shaped toe box that offers a bit more of a snug version of the brand's anatomic fit. In the FWD, the foot shaping has been tapered more than most Altra shoes, but there's still ample space lengthwise and across the top. And compared to most shoes, these still feel pretty roomy. The FWD is a little bit more dialed in, but I'd recommend going true to size in both these shoes. So in testing, I've run around 40 miles in the Torin 7, slightly less in the Altra FWD Experience. That's been at a mix of paces, slow to fast. Some runs up to 90 minutes and some miles on road, some on light off-road parks. So basically the usual test conditions. I've also done a mile with 1 shoe on each foot, and here's what I found. So I've just done the side-by-side mile. Altra Torin 7 on the left foot, I've got the FWD Experience on the right foot. Very similar shoes basically, one's a bit softer than the other. That's basically how I read it. The FWD Experience, whilst it's on the foot here and you're running at all paces, just hits a bit firmer, a bit more solid underfoot. There's a bit more softness in the Torin 7. Footbed's softer, landing is softer. It's not quite so much response then as a result of the toe off. Sits a bit lower as well, feels a little bit lower overall. That's obviously the lack of drop, you know, you feel a bit flatter. But overall, from doing that mile in these shoes, it's a very, very similar feel apart from how that midsole feels. So I'm back in from my mile in the rain just now, and there's a few other things to note here. On stability, I find the firmer landings of the Forward Experience just a shade more reliable. That might also be down to the lower midsole stack. There's margins here, but I just find it is a touch more reliable. The Forward Experience is also lighter and somewhat racier. When my own tests, I found that in the separate tests, but I don't think you notice the extra grams too much when you're moving. And I found the Forward Experience encouraged a faster, more efficient foot turnover as well. The Torin 7 are sort of soft. They kind of almost give you a cuddle when you're being a bit more lazy. The Forward Experience kind of require you to run up in good form. On durability, both shoes feel equally as robust. I've had no worrying wear and tear in my miles, so it's still quite early days on those. I also don't have any issues with the Forward's heel pads, but I've seen that some people have on our reviews. I do often wonder why brands complicate the heel design like this. It always feels like a risk that some people aren't going to get on when you start to put fiddly bits. And finally, I'm still fairly new to Altra, but I've enjoyed the ride of both of these shoes. If you're interested in that roomier toe box that they offer, in the anatomical toe box, and if you're wondering whether lower drop shoes might work for you, I think these two shoes, particularly out of their shoe lineup, are a good gateway option to test that out. I think they're both very capable shoes. They probably drop though into the pile of daily trainers that I found to be good and very capable, but maybe not stand out, wow and great. Verdict then, well, Altra themselves told us that these shoes can be used for the same type of runs, but the lighter weight Altra Forward Experience provides a more efficient ride. And I think there's definitely that feeling that the Altra Forward Experience is in many ways like a Torin 7, but with a low drop and a bit more response. It's slightly baffling that Altra didn't use one of their more energetic foams in what is a really important shoe for them, just to compete with the springier and punchier, more modern ride of newer daily trainers. That's what I think we all kind of hoped and expected. However, if you're considering investing in one of these, here is how I would separate them. If you want a more direct, racier shoe that's a little firmer, a bit more responsive, more capable at the faster end, but probably less protective moving slower, then I think the Forward Experience wins the day on that front. If you want a slightly more cushioned protection or protective ride and don't mind sacrificing a bit of top pace efficiency, then I would say go for the Torin 7. But I personally think if you can get on with a slightly firmer ride, even on your easier runs, then the Forward Experience offers more versatility and a better overall range. The Forward Experience is also Altra's best looking shoe by far. And so if I was picking one shoe to stick in my rotation, I think out of these two, it would be the Altra Forward Experience. So there you have it. That's been our head-to-head of the Altra Torin 7 and the new Forward Experience. We hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions, hit us up in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell for more great Run Testers videos when they land. It really helps when you support us that way. If you want a full review of the Torin 7 or the Forward Experience, those videos are appearing on the channel right about now. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we hope to see you again soon on the Run Testers. Happy running, everyone, and good luck with whatever it is that you're trying to achieve out there.